One area that we often forget to create a system for is digital organization. And back in episode 44, I talked about how to set up a system to organize your email. But today, I actually want to touch on the digital files in a space like Google Drive or Dropbox. And taking my simple framework to build a system for digital file organization will also be easy to maintain. So, this one you are definitely going to want to grab a pen and paper and we can get into it. Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renae Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage podcast. This episode might sound a little bit boring, or you might think, like, I don't need a system for digital files. Like, I am just fine. But when you really think about it, how stressed are you when you're looking for something, whether it is a saved recipe, a document that you have stored on maybe your phone or your computer? Maybe it is your tax information, your tax return. Maybe it's photos or screenshots of things you don't want to forget. It could be school papers, medical history, digital receipts, budget information, resumes. Maybe it's home maintenance information like paperwork when the roof got replaced or a new well was put in, things that you want to keep on hand. You want that information accessible if you ever need it down the road. Or maybe you use it all the time and it's at a go to spot, but everything else around it is just kind of a mess. And this is a way to create a system where these things are available, they're accessible, they're also organized, and you don't feel like when you open your files on your phone or your computer, it is just absolute chaos. Like, we want to create a system that keeps everything organized, but the key is that we also want it super easy to maintain because a system is going to do you absolutely no good if you create it, but then you don't actually maintain it, because then it's just a lot of wasted work and time and effort to build a system that isn't sustainable. So, this is a way that you can actually build out the framework for what works for you. And then as time goes on and you start saving files, they are super easy to maintain. And then the best part is that when you go to look for these files later, you know exactly where they are, which is the best part because once you have this set up, if anybody asks you for historical information about your home or your health or finances, you have it all available and it's super easy to find. And you can find it within a matter of seconds when you have this framework set up and you maintain it. So, this is a really good way to build a system that works well for you. Now, like I said, you're going to want a paper and pen for this one. I will try to recap it at the end, but when I am talking about these things, I'm going to try to explain it in a way that makes it easy to write it down as I'm going through. But because you can't visually see it, it does make it a little bit harder. So I hope that by having a paper and pen and writing it down with me as I'm talking about it will make it a little bit easier to understand how to actually build out this framework. But the first thing that you are going to want to do is choose the place that you want to use for your digital organization. Now, this is something like Google Drive or Dropbox. There are others, but those are probably the two most popular ones. I have used both, and I started this system. I was using Google Drive, and then I moved over to Dropbox when I had my business items in there. And I actually first created this system in Dropbox. However, Dropbox is more expensive, and I feel like it's not quite as user friendly as Google Drive is. And you have the ability to create different types of documents in Google Drive. Like, you can do the spreadsheets and documents and Word docs and PDFs and photos. And there just seems to be a lot more flexibility. So if you were to ask my opinion, I would say Google Drive because even though I was using Dropbox, I did actually move all of my files over to Google Drive from Dropbox, which was a process, but I am so happy I did it and I prefer Google Drive. So if you were just getting started, I would recommend to start with Google Drive. Then, once you have your place chosen, you're going to grab your paper and pen because you're not going to do a thing on the computer or on your phone until you have this sketched out, okay? Because the worst part would be to create all your folders and get everything set up and then realize, like, that's not actually how I want to do it. And then you have to do all the rework. So, sketching it out on to paper first helps you to kind of get a little bit more of that oversight on what you're organizing before you actually create your plan. Step number three is to kind of gather all the information that you need to organize. And in this sense, you aren't necessarily grabbing the actual documents or anything like that. You're using your paper and pen to write a list. So, this is listing out all of the stuff that you are going to need to organize. Those are the things like, are you holding on to recipes? Do you have documents? What kind of documents are they? Do you have taxes that you are keeping digitally? Do you have photos? Do you have those school papers? Do you have your medical history? Are you keeping receipts? Are you keeping your budget information? Are you keeping those home maintenance documents and receipts and information on those things? Maybe it's even a scan of something on how to use or maintain something in your home. It's all of those types of things. Just kind of brainstorm like what kind of documents and files do you have that you need to figure out how to organize. So that is what you're doing in this step. You are just writing down a whole list of everything that you're going to organize. And then you're going to move to step 4, which is separating all of these things into main categories. Now, this area, you want to keep it pretty limited because this is going to be the start of your organization. So, when you open up a folder in Google Drive, or you open up your Google Drive, I should say, you are going to have just a few main folders, and these are going to be those overarching topics. So you don't want to open up your Google Drive and have 100 different folders to look at, okay? So you want to just have those categories. So some examples might be you separate everything that you have into 4 main categories, and that it might be financial, it might be health, personal life, and meal planning. Like that is just an example. And then everything that you have on your list that you created from step 3 is going to somewhere fit into these 4 categories. So you have to choose what works best for you. But my biggest tip here is to keep it limited and try to combine them into a one category that makes sense for those things. And then you're going to move to step number 5. Once you have your main categories selected, you're going to actually number them so that they stay in your preferred order. So, in this instance, let's say you want the financial folder to be the first one. So, you're actually going to title it 01, because I always do 2 digits if you're doing numbers. It just helps to keep them in order if you go beyond 2 digits. So, I always would do 01 space dash space financial. And the next one, say I want the personal life to be the second folder. So then I would do 02 space dash space personal life. Meal planning would be third. So it's going to be 03 space dash space meal planning. And then the fourth would be 04 space dash space health. So that is how I would do it to keep them, because no matter what you change that title to, it's going to stay in the same order. Even if I add additional folders later as main categories, I can then just add a fifth folder and it will stay in the exact same order no matter what it's titled, because I have the number being the first thing. And so when it's alphabetized and it's sorted, it's going to keep it by the order of the number, not necessarily by the title. Because if you keep changing the title, then, it's going to resort as it alphabetizes, and it might change up the structure of how you're building it. And we want this to be something that your brain just starts to know exactly where to go and where to click, and that is what we're looking for. So we want to keep it as organized as possible and maintain that organization. So then we're going to move to step 6, and we're going to go inside each of these folders, and then this is where we would separate into subcategories. So you might need some extra paper to do this, to really think through what your subcategories are going to be. But this is where you will want to continue your subcategories with your folders and continue with either a numbering system or even by the year. So if it's just going to be a title where there is no date related to it, that's where you're going to do the 0, 1. I do a space and a dash and a space, and then I do the title. You could just do 0, 1 space and then the title and leave it at that. I just like the little dash in there, but that's a personal preference. You do not have to do that. But with going with the main categories that I had, I wanted to share some examples for you. So let's say under that 0, 1 financial, you are going to do budget, taxes, and investments. Those are going to be your folders within the financial. So let's say you have, because these are titled, you're going to do 0, 1 budget, 0, 2 taxes, 0, 3 investments. Whereas the personal life category, for that main category of personal life, you might want to sort your subcategory folders in the personal life folder. So you open it up and you create folders within that one. And that one might be by year. So then let's say everything in you have a folder that says 2024, and then everything in 2024, your photos, your videos, all of those memories of your personal life get plugged into the 2024 um, folder. And then you have one for 2023, 2022, 2021, all of those things. And then you can create a new folder each year and then just drop all of your photos and videos in there. And you can get more detailed later on, and you can do it by vacation, or you can do it by season, or however you want to do it. But sometimes to maintain things, it's a lot easier to just do the year, drop everything in there. So then when you're going back and looking for those memories, you can just click on the year itself and all of those things come up for you. That is just an easy way of doing it. Then for the example for the meal planning one, this one might be just titles again. So you're going to want a numbering convention. So it would be like 0, 1 might be family recipes. And within this folder, you're going to be dropping things like your grandma's pumpkin pie recipe, or your mom's pizza crust, or like my mother in law's German potato salad. Those are actual recipes that I want to have in my family recipes folder. But then in 0, 2, you might do main dishes. In 0, 3, you might do desserts. In 0, 4, it might be actual meal plans. Whatever you are organizing under your meal planning category, that might be some subcategory topics that you could plug in there. And then organize them by the number because it's just the topic. And then with health, some ideas in there might be a health journal. Maybe you have an actual like a running document that you keep notes in. Maybe you have a before and after pictures category that is a subcategory in there, that folder contains all of your before and after pictures if you're going on a health journey. If you have a third subcategory in there, maybe you have all of your family medical history in there, things like that. That is what you would want to organize within your main category of health. So once you have those ideas on how detailed you want to be within each of those main categories for your subcategories, then you move to step 7, and you can actually set up your subcategory organized folders and create additional folders within those. Now, before you do this, I want you to really, really ask yourself if you actually need them. Because I will tell you, the further you get into subcategories, it might be harder to maintain. So you want to be really careful about creating too many folders. I love having the main category and then you have your subcategories. But beyond that, you want to be very intentional on how many more folders you create. So in this instance, it makes sense that, like, say your main category of financial, you have a subcategory for taxes, then it makes sense to have additional subcategories within your taxes folder for like your years. So, say you have a 2024, 2023, 2022, and then within 2024 or each year, you drop all of those documents and you have your completed tax return paperwork. You might have receipts, you might have mileage reports, you might have scans of your tax documents and any other items relating to your 2024 taxes. It makes sense to continue with those subcategories in that instance. But say for your meal planning, maybe it doesn't make sense to separate all of your main dishes. So you've got your meal planning and then you have that's your main category. Then you have your subcategory of main dishes. Maybe you just plug all of your main dishes into that folder because that's going to be the easiest way to keep and maintain your system. But if you want to get more detailed and you're not worried about having the maintenance aspect of it and you know that you can stay consistent with this, then maybe you do want to create additional folders like chicken main dishes, vegetarian main dishes, slow cooker main dishes, and do it that way. It's totally up to you. Just be very mindful of when you're creating additional categories on how easy it's going to be to maintain. So hopefully that isn't too crazy and overwhelming. Like, I definitely think this is an episode that you're probably going to want to re listen to and just keep your paper and pen with you and start jotting down anything that comes to mind as you're going through this. But I do have a few quick tips before we do the recap. And the first one, I've already mentioned it, is do not make too many subcategories. Like I said, they are a little bit harder to maintain, so you want to be very intentional about how many folders you create and to make sure that it makes sense for you. Number two is to not try to sort through all of your documents at once because it can be very overwhelming. Once you create this framework, then you will have a system to begin organizing, but don't try and do it at once, which brings me to tip number three, which is to do it slowly and try to dedicate some time either each day or maybe it's even each week to just sort through the documents that you have on your phone or your computer, or maybe you're even scanning like paper documents that you have piled up so that you can get them into a digital organization and then you can destroy those paper copies. That is something that you want to just take small bits of time and go through. Maybe like it's 15 minutes. I'm going to go through as many files as I can on my phone, upload them into my Google Drive folders into this framework that you have created, and then delete them off of your phone. And then do this little bits at a time. And eventually you will get through all of your files. But just don't try and do it all at once, or you might get a little overwhelmed. Tip number three, or I'm sorry, that was number three. Tip number four is if you find that you are looking for a document in your framework that you have set up, you've organized it all, but you continue to go to the wrong place every time, where under, like, let's say under the financial, you keep looking for your receipts under your budget folder instead of under your taxes folder. So then it might make sense to consider moving your receipt folder under budget instead of keeping it under taxes. And so that is something to just be aware of. If you continue to go to the wrong folder, consider moving it to the folder that makes sense for your brain because that's clearly what you are going to. So you might have to make some adjustments later on to just be aware of that. And that also is helpful when you're not making too many folders, that once you get used to using this system, that you can make quicker changes if you don't have too much detail in here. And then tip number 5 is to choose the naming convention that works best for you and keep it consistent, because this is not only for organization, but it's also for searchability. It's a lot easier to search for the things that you are looking for when you have the same naming convention throughout. So, for my personal preference, if it's dated, I like the year to be first always. So even if it's just the year on its own, but if it's even more detailed and it has the month and the date itself, I still put the year first. So I always do a 4-digit year, and then I'll do a dash, and then I'll do the 2-digit month, and then I'll do a dash, and then I'll do a 2-digit date, and then the title of folders or documents, because then I know that if I am searching alphabetically or in chronological order, because it's by year, month, and then date, it's going to sort it in chronological order for me, and it makes it a lot easier to search for anything. So I do this for personal documents. I also do it for work documents, and it just makes it a whole lot easier to keep these organized and maintained. If it's undated, then that is where I like to do the actual number to organize, especially with those folders. So that's where I do the 01 space dash space and then the title. If it is something that doesn't necessarily need to be in order, I could do a title, but then I want to try to do it as in a way that maintains the same thing. So if I'm pulling a document from, uh, say it's some seminar that I got, and I am pulling information and I have a lot of information that I'm saving from this seminar, I would either maybe put it into a dated folder, or I might put it in the main speaker. Like, let's say I'm not going to use a name, but let's say her name is Jane Doe, and she was the main speaker at this event, and I really loved all of the resources she provided. I might put that in a folder that is under her name, and then anything I got from her as a resource would be in that folder, because then I know I could just search her name and all of those documents would be within that folder. So that is just an example. This could also be like a coaching topic or something you're learning about for school, or just a hobby or an interest. You can do it as like the title of the category or the topic. That is just an idea, but whatever you choose, just choose a naming convention that works really well for you, and then keep it consistent moving forward for titling anything in the future. So now that we have those done, I will do a really quick recap for you. And then that way, hopefully, this episode isn't too long so that you can easily go back and re listen and get some ideas so that you can set up this framework that works really well for you to create and maintain that easy system for your digital files. So, number one was to choose the place that you're going to do this. Like I said, I prefer Google Drive, but you could also use Dropbox or any other similar system. Number 2 is to make sure you grab your paper and pen and be sure to sketch out this plan before moving anything on your actual computer or your phone. Number 3 is to gather all the information that you need and organize it in a list. What are you actually going to be organizing? Get it all in a list. And then you move to step number 4, which is to separate those items into overarching main categories. What makes sense into a main category to pull it into? And number 5, you are then going to number those so they stay in your preferred order. Number 6 is inside each of those main category folders, you are going to separate into subcategories using that list that you used or that you created in step 3. You're going to take that list and create the subcategories under those main categories. And like I said, continue with either the numbering system or the year system or whatever naming convention you have chosen. And step number 7 is, now that you have your main categories and your subcategories, you can continue with creating folders inside those subcategories in the ones that make sense to organize by year or date or topics within those subcategories, but only if it makes sense because, again, you do not want too many of these. And one other quick note before I sign off is that once you have this set up, I just want to mention that, especially with Google Drive and Dropbox, you can access these on both of your computer and your phone. So once you have it set up, it is super easy to be able to go in and search these because they're cloud-based. It's super easy to go in and be able to search for any document that you want or file that you want on your computer or your phone because all you have to do is sign in and have access to those. So it just makes it super easy to be able to not only access the documents, but also scan and upload documents and get them off of your computer or phone, no matter which device you're on. So hopefully this was helpful for you. I know I've had several people asking me about creating a system for digital files. So I'm hoping this was a way that you can do this without even seeing it visually. I hope it makes sense for you as you are drafting it out on paper and that it's helpful for you. And be sure to check in on the next episode because on the next episode will actually be our 100th episode. Because this one, even though it is the 99th episode, we actually just hit our 1 year anniversary of the podcast. So this is still a baby podcast, even though we have hit we've ranked as a top 5% podcast globally. And we have been in multiple different countries as the top 15 within the top 15 podcasts in the self-improvement category. And it is just absolutely amazing. I really appreciate you being here. And I hope that you will be back for our 100th episode on Monday. Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.